Hi traders, this is Houston from the tradingedge.org and it's March the 20th, 2019. I'm just going to do a quick recap and outlook for tomorrow, March 21st, 2019. But I'll first begin by just saying, and maybe quoting a famous phrase from the book called A Tale of Two Cities. And the phrase is, it was the best of times and it was the worst of times. And that's certainly true with the equities market. It really depends on number one, your time frame, and number two, your perspective. Because depending on which camp you fall in, it could certainly look really, really positive, or it could look really, really negative. It really depends on your context and your perspective. So let's get into the charts and see what they tell us. So as you know, if you've watched our previous videos, we've been watching the VIX very closely to see how it handles this broadening formation that it's kind of been creeping up back through again. So yesterday we pointed out the outside-inside pattern, and today we wanted to see how it was going to resolve. So as a backdrop, equities were fairly weak. The indices, I mean, were fairly weak. Russell and Dow looked pretty bad right from the get-go. Spider didn't look so hot either right from the get-go, but the Qs held up quite well. In fact, you know, they had a lot of the FANG names were quite strong today, and so the Qs did not look that weak compared to the other indices. So what we actually had happen on the VIX was this: outside inside pops up to the upside. Right from the get-go on the lower time frame chart, let's take a look at, let's say, the 30-minute. It goes outside, inside, and up, and takes out the top end of this range. That range here was 31. So 29.31 was the high of that outside bar. It takes it out right away on that opening drive, and then it pulls back, right? So it pulls back to test the metal of any buyers. So it comes all the way back into your entry again had you bought that breakout on the 4-hour chart. So, you know, it goes right back down to here, 29.16 area, and it kind of hovers in there for a while. So you can see here, the low in this sequence here is, the low here is 28.84, so even further down, right? So it dips all the way back in again to 28.84, and then it pops up again before doing an inside bar reversal right before the FOMC meeting at 2 o'clock today. So here you have your inside bar. People are trying to buy the breakout. Unfortunately, the breakout here coincides with the top of that Bollinger Band. It's also the top of these highs here that ends up creating this new broadening formation, right? So here, when you start having these higher highs created, you get that type of situation. So people don't see that they're going right into highs, and if this thing fails, it'll go right down to the downside. So here, once it breaks the low of this top bar, that's an inside bar reversal, and bam, you have this sequence here. Now, 2 o'clock, obviously the Fed came out and added juice to the fire, and so we had 1 hour of pretty frantic buying on the equity side on the indices. But by the end of the day, the last hour of the day, things actually turned green for the VIX once again, and powered up and started coming back through the range once again. So very, very tight trading here. It's a very tight range. You go back to that 4-hour chart now. Again, it's very tight range, and you're left with this big bullish hammer. So at this point, what's going to happen, right? So right now you have this outside inside pattern, outside and up pattern on the daily chart, and really you have to see how it's going to break out of the range, because right now it's sitting right on this trend line here, the support at the bottom, and it's slowly making its way back up. It's currently trading above the weekly open as well. So right now you kind of have the situation where there's a bit of conflict, right? Where you're above the weekly open, but you're below the monthly open, and so you're getting this kind of chop right now because there is no trend. There's no time frame alignment. You have time frames that are divergent, so you're having this type of choppiness. So I would not expect this to change by tomorrow. Tomorrow's the last trading day of the week. In all likelihood, we wind up the week inside of this range, right? So it's probably going to happen that we're going to end up inside this range, or we touch down here again if we can. They touch back down here and maybe they come back up again. But right now it seems to be that we're in a kind of divergent pattern here in terms of alignment, time frame alignment. So the SPY, people are talking about 281 resistance. Let's take a look and see what that really looks like, right? So the SPY here, what actually looked bad in the SPY this morning was that you had a 2-day inside bar reversal, and so here it went inside bar and up on the 2-day chart, and here right in the morning it actually broke below that low, and so anyone who got got long in here and put their stops below that bar is now at risk, right? So the bears tried to take out this low, but they could not. See, the low here was 280.33, and the low here. Actually, they did it, right? So this is exactly how liquidity works. They took it up by 1 penny, right? So they took it up, it was exactly 1 penny, and they push it back up. Now, recognize the broad information that's happening here, right? So the trend line here at the top end of the range, and we keep banging against the top end of that trend line. And this is why you're having a hard time breaking above that, as you're quickly met by sellers, and they're aggressive up there. So every time you peak above it, you get selling pressure. It pushes back down. The one thing that's going for the SPY right now is that look at the higher time frame chart, right? The month is a strong green month, bullish hammer. So we have 1 trading week left next week before the end of the month, and what would it take for the bears to turn this month into a bearish month, right? You'd have to really turn this bar red. That could start next week though. Look at the weekly chart right now. You have a kind of a shooting star. So depending on how aggressive the bears are next week, assuming nothing really changes tomorrow, and we'll do an update this weekend. But for the bears to really take over, they'll want to take out this week's low. But before we don't want to get ahead of ourselves there. But that's what you'd want to see if you're going to be bearish on this market. But for the time being, right, even though we're touching the top end of the range, we still got time frame alignment. So we're still trading above the monthly open in orange, and we're still above the weekly open in green. So the week is still green, right? Even though it's a doji looking type of candle right now, we still got a green week. So tomorrow, you got to wait and see how they resolve this. This is really at this point here, FOMC was out today. You need to see how traders react to the news tomorrow. We have clearer heads coming in after a night's sleep. We've got to see how traders react to the news, and we'll see how this the unfolding China trade war story continues to take effect on the markets. So quick look at Qs now, because Qs are rocking, right? So some of the FANG names today all up quite big, but Qs end the day with an outside bar to the upside. Question tomorrow is, what's the next bar look like, right? Do you stay inside because that's a big range today? It's a fairly big range based upon the last few bars. But now, where do you go from here? Do you go outside and down, outside and up, or you stay in the middle? Or you pop up one of the ranges and then you come back, you go back in the middle again. Because time frame alignment says your green month, green week, right? So right now the bias is still up, and look at that monthly chart, right? That's a very, very strong monthly chart, a strong week. What would it take for the bears to change that? A lot right now. So right now the Qs are not foreshadowing any disasters. Quickly now, the Russell and Dow, because these are kind of the worst of times, right? So the Russell doesn't look as good. So the Russell certainly broke down the other day. It has 2 red days now, and they're quite heavy. They're quite heavy selling days as well. So if you look at the 4-hour chart here, we actually went inside bar reversal and down on the 4-hour. This is why I pay attention to it. And remember, we talked about it yesterday. They try to go inside bar and up on the weekly, but they could not hold above it. So they were able to break it back down, and now look what's happened. It's now trading below the weekly open, below the monthly open. So now you have a condition where it's a red on the month, red on the week, but you're still green on the quarter. So don't forget, we still have one more week left in the quarter. So it's still probably going to be a green quarter. If you look at the monthly chart here, this bar right here, this green line here, that's where price opened up. That's the quarterly open. So if you look at a 3-month chart as an example, there, right? Does that look like a bearish candle to you on the quarterly chart? No, right? So it would take a lot to change this bar to make it look bearish in 1 week, right? So right now, look, the Russell's up close to 14.5% in the past 3 months. So it's doing quite well still, relatively, even though the shorter time frame stuff looks kind of corrective, especially if you look at this 4-hour chart, right? You have this big shooting star. There's a possibility here that you just kind of work your way down here further down, but we got to see what happens at the end of the week and then the beginning of next week. But right now, Russell's definitely the worst looking out of all of them. Dow doesn't look that great either, right? So the Dow here, we have the same kind of condition. We have an inside month, but we're still, it's red on the month, red on the week, but it's an inside month. So what would it take to change that inside month, right? It's probably not going to, I'm going to go on a limb here, but I'm thinking it's probably going to stay inside month for the rest of the month, because we're so entangled inside the range right now that it'd be hard for it to break out one way or the other. I could be wrong next week. Maybe we have a an amazing volatile week next week and it takes out one side of the range. But we'll see right now the volatility has been coming in, right? You can see the size of the bars have been getting smaller and smaller on the way up. So I don't imagine volatility is going to really change that much by the end of next week. But right now, the thing to watch is it's more of a bearish bent on Dow stocks. Okay, so the one thing I do want to point out before we move on to stocks is TLT. We've been watching that quite closely, and this is the one that I've been calling out for watching for a while. Is that TLT was inside week and up last week, and I said once it clears 121.69, that's the break above that inside bar. Once it reclaims that range, once it reclaims that level, then the next pivot is this one here, 122.54. And intraday we broke through that, and then we end up closing at 122.68. So that's an easy trade for folks who don't mind trading treasuries. A little lower volatility, but the direction was there, and it was an easy trade to make if you don't mind having small profits. That means you have to use more leverage. But again, the issue with the trading TLT is that the thing gaps up a lot. So gaps up and down a lot, so you kind of have to get in at the right times, or sometimes you have to get in before the move happens. Otherwise, if you wait for it, you might not get filled intraday. Okay, so that's it for TLT. TLT now on the monthly chart, green outside month. So what happens next month? That's the question, right? What's going to happen next month? No matter what happens between now and the end of the month, it's still going to be an outside month, all right? So that's still going to be an outside month. The question is, what do you do next month? Does this go? Does it stay inside, or once again, are we able to take out one side of the range? Okay, but right now, outside week as well. So what happens next week? We're hitting right again at the top of that trend line. Let's see if we can break above it and stay above it. Okay, so just a couple more stocks to highlight now. And as I said, the FANG names, it is the best of times for the FANG names. Look at Netflix today, right? Tech is flying. So Netflix had a stellar day, up, was it close to 5%, 4.58%. So you can see here, Netflix has just been ripping back up through the range. That pivot is likely to get taken out. 386.80, looks like they're gunning for it on the monthly chart, right? And that looks like it's well within reach if they keep going at this pace. So it looks like it's oversold now, right? Overbought now, excuse me, because it's getting high on these ranges. But again, once momentum kicks in, if they can do the Bollinger Band walk, it can easily take out that pivot there, right? And that would definitely put the hurt on any shorts who got short in that sequence and are still holding that position. Because basically, they will have reclaimed that entire stretch down from back in September or early October. That whole sequence would basically be wiped out. Okay, even names like, there's so many tech names that are still flying. Look at a name like MDB, MongoDB. Look at that stock, right? So depending if you're a good stock picker and you can find the names, this stock is up 41% since the beginning of the month, and there's no sign of it slowing down. Earnings came out this day here, and it's kept on going, and it's been doing the Bollinger Band walk, and that's the Bollinger Band walk, meaning it just has to keep going up. All right, so you want to see it keep climbing. It's having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 green days now above the Bollinger Bands. So that's momentum. So it just has to keep going now. Otherwise, once it runs out, once one of these lows gets taken out, you can expect it to fall back down a bit. I'm not saying it's going to correct. I'm just saying that the momentum leaves a bit, and it's going to have to find some time and digest the recent gains. But look at the 4-hour chart. All right, that's you can just see the strength of that move there. It's green every single bar. Right, so inside bar here. So even though it's red, it's an inside bar. Consolidation, outside, inside, bam, it's gone. So this is the trade I took today. Twitter. I'll quickly explain the rationale. Great trade. Made my day. Was watching it on the weekly specifically here, outside and down. So this happened a few weeks ago. Outside bar and down. The sellers weren't able to break it any further down. Once this guy gets taken out, the high of this guy gets taken out, then this pivot's in play. So here, 3271, that pivot there, that's the pivot I was gunning for. So today, got long on a simple sequence there, outside inside pattern. So you can get long on that as well as other intraday setups. So if you don't want to trade on the 4-hour, then you just have to get your bias right? So that's one setup, but certainly you could have drilled down and found a lot of other good setups on pullbacks on Twitter to get into that trade. So 3271 right there is the target. Came very close. I took some off at 3255 and ended up closing at 3257. And it's not. I don't think it's going to be that difficult for tomorrow a future session for 32.71 to get taken out. All right, so that's the kind of trade that I like. Full time frame alignment to the upside, and we know the pivot to go after. It's that one there, and then potentially if it keeps going, you can go after that pivot there, right? As it works its way back up through this broadening formation. Because that's the beauty of these outside bars. Once you understand these outside bars, you realize that when you have this type of situation, traders are getting stopped out on both sides. Meaning anyone who's trading with tight stops, when you have an outside bar like that, you're taking out the stops from traders who've put their stops on either end of the previous bar's range. And this basically means the game has restarted. For any short-term traders who are involved, from a short-term perspective, who just got involved, the game has reset itself, and they have to now reestablish a position if they want to get involved. And so this gives you the understanding that there could be a lot more potential in that move, because now you've displaced some traders, and folks are either going to be in trouble, they're either going to be chasing, or they're going to be fearful, or there are going to be a number of emotions, and that's the type of trade that I like to take advantage of. Okay, so one final look at something, and that's around oil. Oil was really rocking today. So the oil number came out. It came out strong. So oil was up. Again, we talked about it on the weekend video. It's in an uptrend, right? And so even though it's been up for 3 months in a row, look at the monthly chart. You have a long way to go still. Look at the perspective, right? So take a step back and look at the perspective. It's still trading in a very low range, right? Way down here, right? And if oil really catches fire, then man, you can have a lot of range to go after. Let's take a look at UK oil here for a second. You have a lot of range that you can potentially come back through here. So even though oil seems high, it's really a matter of perspective, which is why we called this video, it was the best of times and it was the worst of times. But one thing I want to highlight is XOP, right? Oil exploration. OIH is the same thing. Really beautiful looking chart. So I've been keeping my eye on this, and I think I highlighted this in one of the previous videos. Is again, XOP is on the verge of going inside month and up. So keep your eye on that, right? So once it breaks above here, 31.37, then it's going to go inside month and up. And then you're going to have some real potential here for this thing to move up higher. And so already the oil exploration names have been really rocking. But look at the 4-hour chart today. Outside bar to start this is yesterday's day. Outside bar and down. All right, outside bar and down. This morning the buyers took it back because look, we're still up on the month and up on the week. All right, so it's still a green week even with this selling. As soon as that bar gets taken out, you can even look on a lower time frame. But once that high gets taken out, they're going after that pivot immediately. And then they're going to go after that pivot. That's exactly what happened, right? So they went after that pivot, and they took out that pivot right there. Okay? So, actually, did it go outside? Actually, excuse me. So yeah, it actually did go already inside month and up on the monthly chart. It just didn't hold above there. So now we want to see this thing break above and close above, and actually keep those gains, because now if we can break above and consolidate a bit there, then we might have a real chance for it to springboard further. So definitely keep XOP and other related oil names on your list. If it can stay and trade above those levels, that 31.37 area, then you definitely want to be trading more oil names, because the fundamentals will be behind you. All right. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a good Friday session. Happy trading.